Let me call the regularly scheduled meeting of the Harlingen City Commission, which has been duly posted, to order. And at this time, I'd like you all to join me in prayer. Our Heavenly Father, blessed are you, Lord God of mercy, who through your Son gave us a marvelous example of charity and the great commandment of love for one another. Send down your blessings on these, your servants, our first responders, who so generously devote themselves to helping others. Grant them courage when they are afraid, wisdom when they must make quick decisions, strength when they are weary, and compassion in all their work. When the alarm sounds and they are called to aid both friend and stranger, let them faithfully serve you and their neighbor. We pray for those who are departed. Amen. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I want to welcome everybody to our meeting. I'm glad to have you here. I want to especially recognize, I think we have some members of PAC 1701 with some of our Cub Scouts and Cub Scout leaders who are here working on one of their rank advancements. So welcome. We're glad to have you here. And I also want to recognize Christopher Hinojosa, who's in the audience. He's also a Scout, a former Scout, an Eagle Scout. Christopher finished his first year at Harvard, and he's going to sort of shadow us over the next couple of weeks. He's interested in government, and he's going to be coming to these meetings. So we want to welcome Christopher and tell him that we're glad to have him join us through our meetings. This time we have some board recognition, but Desmond's not going to join us tonight, so I think is that the only one?
That's the only one.
So the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of July 6th and July 20th. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, I ask if there's a motion to approve the minutes.
I move we approve both sets of minutes.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next item 3A through C is the consent agenda. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
So moved, Mayor. Items 3A, B, and C.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 4 is to consider and take action to approve the recommendation of Scott Gibbs, insurance consultant with McGriff, Siebels, and William regarding the employees' health and group insurance for fiscal year 2016-17, naming the insurance agents and authorize the city manager to sign the contract. So welcome, Scott.
Mayor, Commissioners, appreciate you having me here tonight. Belinda's going to pass out a hard copy of the presentation. So I will just kind of go through it. I'll, any questions that you have during the presentation, please feel free to just stop me and ask, and we'll go from there. So a little bit, I'll talk about the current plan history, overview of the RFP process. We'll take a look at the fully insured medical quotes that we got. We did go out for partially self-funded quotes as well, but from a financial standpoint, it makes more sense to stay fully insured. We didn't get any quotes that would warrant us to move to a partially self-funded contract. We'll look at the total medical cost analysis, potential monthly employee contributions for next year, recommendations, and any questions or comments. So the current plan history, our loss ratio currently with Allegiant from October 1st, 2015 through May 31st is about 73%. That is a mature loss ratio. I did factor in claims from Blue Cross and Blue Shield on the run out. So essentially we've had about 2.9 million in total paid claims versus paid premiums of 3.6 million. Our final loss ratio with Blue Cross for the 2014-15 plan year was about 85%. We paid out just under 5 million. They paid out just under 5 million in paid claims. The premiums they took in were about 5.8 million. So why that's important is in a fully insured environment, a carrier's desired loss ratio is typically somewhere between 85 and 86%. That's basically for them to have overhead margin to pay the claims and everything. So that's what we look for. So what that would ideally tell you is if you're in that 85% range, with medical trend being about 7%, pharmacy trend somewhere between 12 and 15%. In a perfect world, if you were at an 85% loss ratio, you would probably expect a 7 to 8% renewal out of the gate, and then you kind of work from there. To a little overview of the process, we did put out the RFP on June 14th. We had questions that were due to June 28th. The deadline was July 1st. Copies of the proposals were forwarded to myself for review, working with staff, and then obviously I'm here tonight to make recommendations. As we go into the RFP, we got 4 responses. We got Allegiant, which is the current vendor, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who was the former vendor. TML came in uncompetitive. They were at a plus 31. And then United Healthcare came in. So, one of the reasons we went out to bid, from talking to staff, when we transitioned from Blue Cross to Allegiant, it was not exactly a smooth transition. We had employees that were not happy. So, and Allegiant worked hard to try to correct some of those. We definitely had some issues surrounding the formulary drug listing. In the drug program, which affected, and I think they worked hard, but again, we did have some unhappy employees. So, as we look, Allegiant came in. Their initial renewal was a 7.34% renewal across all plans. They did offer an enhanced formulary. So the formulary that they did quote with the renewal is a much more liberal formulary than what we had effective October 1st, especially surrounding a lot of the specialty Tier 4 pharmaceuticals. In the best and final, they did reduce the rate by 1%, so it basically across plans was about a 6.34% increase. This slide just shows you kind of the plans, where they are, and kind of where the head counts are and where they land. Currently, right now, the bulk of our population is in the Plan 750 and the Plan 500. The Plan 1000, we've got, I think, roughly a couple hundred people in that. I did look at whether we should continue all 3 plans, skinny down to 2 plans, and felt like after we looked at it, probably continuing with 3 plans would be where we are. So that's where kind of Allegiant came in. Blue Cross came in. They matched the current benefit plans. They did give they're offering a $10,000 implementation credit towards implementation or wellness. Their initial renewal option that came in was about 6.05%. They did move down to a 0% across, factored out across the plans with the current plans. So for the best and final, they did reduce their number by about 6%, a little over 6%. So when you look at their plans, the 750 plan and the 500 plan came in at a lower rate. The $1,000 plan came in at a higher rate, but when you factor them across the board, it's a 0% increase. It would be a $14, just for rounding, it would be a $14.88 increase to the city if you guys wanted to go ahead and eat that. The one thing too that I'll say is, Blue Cross came in again with their drug plan of 103560. So they're the Tier 4 drugs, where we've had some issues surrounding Allegiant. Those Tier 4 drugs would be, instead of on a co-insurance basis, they'd be at that 3rd tier. I think, again, I do think Allegiant, quoted a much more liberal formulary for them, but this is a formulary as well that the employees know. So with Blue Cross, it was a 0% increase. UHC came in, their initial renewal was in the ballpark. They were at 7.81%. They offered a second plan design option that decreased it to about 4.9%. One of the things on the UHC plan is, to try to get down, they had one plan that had no out-of-network benefits. But ultimately, They were the highest of the three. Best and final, they did reduce it by 3%. They did reduce it down to 3%. But again, they were higher than the other two. So overall, when you looked at it, the plans blended in their rates where the head counts are, it was about a 4.7% increase. So, moving forward, taking a look, if we were to go to Blue Cross, again, we could keep the rates the same for the employees, and there would be no increase to the city or to the employees. So the monthly contributions for the employees would remain where they are today. I don't anticipate we're going to have a lot of movement between the plans, but what I will do is after open enrollment, I'll adjust the numbers accordingly. But like I said, I think we might see less than 10% movement probably. So, that being said, again, there was no financial advantage to go partially self-funded. My recommendation, along with staff, just with some of the issues that we've had, would be to move back to Blue Cross. I would recommend continuing offering the three plans. That would provide no increase on the budget line item this year for the city or the employees. The other recommendation is Blue Cross quoted with multiple agents. However, my recommendation in staff would be to remain with the current agents, which is Shepherd, Walton & King, and Texas Insurance Agency. They do a very good job for staff, and staff's very happy with them. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, you mentioned Tier 4 drugs. What does that mean?
So Tier 4 drugs are going to be your specialty pharmaceuticals, things like Remicade, Enbrel, your higher dollar.
20 to 100,000 a year.
You're right. I mean, you can have, typically they're going to be on the low end 500. Like an Enbrel's 2,500. You could go all the way up to like a Sovaldi or a Harvoni, which could be an $80,000 drug.
And then the AM Best rating of Blue Cross Blue Shield.
AM Best rating of Blue Cross Blue Shield, I think it's an A. It's an A+. So, and just to kind of let you know, again, I did do a deeper dive on the pharmaceuticals. We looked at the top drugs by cost and the top drugs by prescription count. And looking at that, on the top drugs by cost, we're going to have 74 people that are going to benefit. There were only 11 that would only 11 it would affect negatively, but they would still get capped at the third tier copay versus the 20%. And then on the prescription count, the reality is the 60 people would be benefited positive, 72 negative. The reality for Blue Cross, just so you guys know, 64 of those affected on the 72 is Tamiflu, and Tamiflu for Blue Cross is covered at the third tier versus where it's covered at the tier 2 right now. So that'd be about a $30 increase. But
And Tamiflu is the
yes,
nasal spray.
yeah.
There was
there-
a recent study in the last 4 or 6 weeks saying that it really doesn't work.
Right. So, so there you go. So that was kind of the deeper dive I did on the pharmacy. The networks are gonna align. Any questions? Again,
What's the likelihood of getting Blue Cross Blue Shield to make some sort of a commitment about a cap on next year?
it's not going to happen, unfortunately, especially in the fully insured world. It's a 12-month contract. We do occasionally see some groups like Humana in Houston will, in the Houston market, they'll put a second-year rate cap on it if you participate in their wellness program and everything goes 100% in their wellness program. But we're still, unfortunately, with the shrinkage in the market space, the carriers just, especially with participation in the public exchanges, and I think you probably have read in the articles. There was an article yesterday published about Aetna losing $200 million in the marketplace space. I know Blue Cross has lost about $700 million in the marketplace space just in Texas. So it's for those reasons that, and when you see pharmaceutical costs, 2 years ago a pharmaceutical trend was probably about 8% or 9%. Now we're using a 12% on our self-funded clients, but I see some carriers using as high as 15%. There's just so much variation in the cost that they won't, they won't give a second year rate cap.
And do we ever conduct any kind of a health fair for our employees where they would come in and screen for things, blood pressure, blood sugar, diabetes, those types of things? Do we ever do that here?
I believe we do a health, you want to?
We have not done it in the last year and a half or so. About 2 years ago, we did do one. We used to budget as a line item for that. Slowly, we've ended up reducing that line item.
Do you remember how much that was?
Well, what we actually had, we had one of these companies that did they did a minor test that would show all sorts of things, and the cost was, it was a high cost. We ended up, I think it was something like $8,000-9,000 that we paid for that. Since then, we've had offers, but we haven't budgeted for that.
Well, I know in the long term, that's helpful to try to identify things like diabetes early and other issues like that, blood pressure issues that could save us money in the long term.
Does the Planet Blue Cross, don't they have like a wellness checkup that doesn't cost employee anything?
Yeah, they do. I mean, the Affordable Care Act requires that everyone get one free visit per year on a physical basis. They also do have in their rates Catapult built in, which we can work with them to bring. Yeah, they used Catapult last time, and what you can do is bring Catapult in. Blue Cross has a contract with them. They'll do the screening on site for you, and then what happens is they just bill it back to the plan like a preventive care. They also did give a $10,000 implementation or wellness credit, so from a budget standpoint, that could be used to help pay for the health care as well.
The benefit to the doing it on site is that the employee doesn't have to take time off from work to go do it. And so they're much more likely to do it if you say, hey, there it is right there. It's going to take 15 minutes. Why don't you go do it? And I think I believe it's very beneficial, especially if you continue it over the long term to try to identify those things. So it could cost you a lot of money down the road.
I
think the
completely
$10,000
agree.
credit will provide that opportunity.
And I completely agree.
All right, does anybody have any other questions for Scott?
So is that something we would do?
But we have that credit, and it's particularly for wellness, right?
Yes,
So
it's for implementation or wellness, whichever.
Efren's looking at me, he's acknowledging me, he knows what I mean. Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay. All right, then we need a motion to approve Scott's recommendation to move to Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Also motion.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Mayor, one.
5, consider to take action to approve.
I was just say one thing too, to be on record as far as the agent as well. I would think you would want to make sure to select that Blue Cross Blue Shield and the agent
Also
be
motion that the agency.
the existing agents, which are
The
separate.
appointment of the agent, right, I thought that was in your recommendation.
It is. I just want to make sure that it's
In the record.
part of that. Okay.
I think the way
Perfect.
it's worded is a recommendation of Scott Gibbs.
Okay.
And to appoint the agent and to authorize the city manager to sign the contract.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Item 5, consider to take action to approve the recommendation from Scott Gibbs, Griff, Siebels, and William regarding the voluntary vision plan to the city employees for fiscal year 2016-17, authorize the city manager to sign a contract.
Perfect. When we went to RFP on the medical, we also did go out to the vision. The vision was requesting a 4% increase. We had not done a market check on the vision in probably 5 years, so we wanted to see kind of what was out there. If there was a potential to get some lower cost for the employees with potentially better benefits. So we did do that. Overview of the process, ran the same date, the dates ran the same as the health plan. So we released it on June 14th. We took questions on the 28th. The deadline was July 1st. We're here tonight to make recommendations. Please remember the voluntary vision, the city has no cost in this plan other than we run it through the Section 125 plan for pre-tax. So this is all employee dollars. So looking at the vision, we did get a lot of quotes. Superior was the current vendor. We did get a quote from Aetna, Avisus, Davis, IMED, Itopia, TML, and VSP. As I went through that, we did do a best and final with 4 vendors. It really kind of came down to 2 vendors. The current vendor, Superior, when we did the best and final, they didn't move their number. Their increase was going to be 4% for 4 years. Davis Vision, they matched the current benefits. They gave no increase for 4 years. They have a strong network in the Rio Grande Valley, and it would be a 19% reduction in employee rates. One other comment I'll say about Davis is they just moved their corporate headquarters to San Antonio about 2 years ago, so they are a Texas company. So, this just kind of shows you Superior versus Davis. You can see up here, these are the retail chains that they both have. They're both very similar. One thing I will say about Davis that's a little different than most other vision vendors is that they actually own manufacturing as well. So from start to finish, it's their product, from production of the frames, lenses, all the way to the end chain of the stores and the health and the the vision plan. So what that means a lot of times is if you go into a VisionWorks, which is the chain that they own as well, if you go in there, your benefit will go further for that. So you can see they matched all the benefits on both plans, and some of the limits were actually higher. Ultimately, you're not talking a lot of money, but still it would be a savings and a little bit better benefit than what we currently have with Superior. So, my recommendation would be, and again, the rates would stay the same for 4 years. The recommendation would be to move the voluntary vision to Davis. And then, again, the current agent on the vision did not have a quote for Davis come in, so our recommendation would be to move to Davis and to the current health plan agents, again, Shepherd, Walton King, and Texas Insurance Agency. It just helps consolidate it more. It's easier for staff to deal with one firm versus 2 firms.
When you say Davis, I forget the exact phrase you used, but did you mean they have more providers, optometrists in the plan than the other?
It's going to be similar. Their networks are very similar. I think the only one that's not in their network is Costco, but they really do try to drive people to VisionWorks.
I meant like individual optometrists.
It's
or is it chain only?
Right. It's the individual optometrist. It's going to be very similar between both plans.
And you've had experience with Davis before?
Yes, sir. I have.
And it's been a pleasant experience?
It's been a pleasant experience. They do a good job. We've got business with everybody, with Superior, VSP, Avisus, pretty well spread out, but they do a good job from a customer service standpoint. Like I said, I think they do a good job as well because you can get a little bit more bang for your buck if you go into VisionWorks, which they own. So. And
is there a VisionWorks near here?
There is one at the Vista. I looked that up. I thought that question might come up. There's one at the mall. So.
Okay. Very good.
All right. Any other questions for Scott? Then on item 5, is there a motion to approve his recommendation?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Scott, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your usual good counsel and guidance through this process. It's always an expensive item for us, so we want to make sure we get the best value. And I think you and all the staff have worked real hard to make sure that's happened this year. Congratulations. Good work. Thank you all.
Thank you. Yeah, but it's rare these days that we get to deliver a 0% on both sides. So.
Thanks. All right. Item 6, consider and take action to propose desired tax rate for fiscal year 2016-17. Scheduled 2 public hearings to be held on Friday, August 12th, 2016 at 12 noon, and Wednesday, August 17th, 2016 at 5:30 p.m.
Good evening, Mayor and City Commission. The 2016 effective tax rate for the City of Harlingen is .588300. The tax rate being proposed is the same tax rate as last year at .588827. Since the proposed rate is greater than the effective tax rate, the tax code requires the taxing unit to vote on the proposed tax rate, record the vote, and schedule 2 public hearings on the proposed tax rate. The rate being proposed is .588827. The recommended dates for the public hearings is Friday, August 12, 2016 at 12 p.m. and Wednesday, August 17, 2016 at 5:30 p.m.
Okay. Is there a motion to take action to approve the tax rate and to schedule
Could we,
public hearings?
I asked them if they would put a little spreadsheet up that I worked on just a little bit this afternoon, just so that everybody kind of knows what we're talking about in terms of the tax rate, in my opinion. Is that possible?
Yes, sir.
You know, every year, I've been doing this since 2013, and every year we ask the staff to come back to us with a balanced budget, and they do an excellent job of doing that. Sometimes it's more difficult, and sometimes it's a little bit easier to do. But one of the things that I thought would be interesting to look at is the city of Harlingen has not had a tax increase that I know of since 2005. In fact, in 2005, the rate was higher than it is now. Can we make that big enough for
Can you
somebody to see
scroll
it?
up?
Up, 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 up.
Up. No, the other way.
Right there, make that bigger.
Down in the lower right, there's a plus sign. Lower right.
In the green,
No, to the lower right.
in the green,
The other right.
green bar.
Your other right.
Your other right. Right there. Above the time clock.
Keep going, right above the time, right above the speaker. Keep going, right there. There you go. Hit the plus sign, it'll zoom in.
There you
Bigger, bigger. Okay, right there.
go.
Just for perspective, that's a listing of the major or equivalent cities that I selected from Hidalgo and Cameron County, just showing where everybody's tax rate is, just for reference. If you scroll down a little bit, you can see, I think we have the city of McAllen is down there, and the city of Mission. City of McAllen has some extraordinary sales tax that not everyone else in the state enjoys. They have one of the highest sales tax per capita of any place in the state of Texas, I believe. And the city of Mission has a transfer from one of their utilities into their general fund, which allows them to have that 49-cent tax rate. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea where Harlingen falls in that spectrum. And if you look down, the next thing is this 1 cent of tax for us generates $328,945, and I just picked a number there so that a 4-cent tax increase you're going a little too fast for me. Would generate about $1.3 million, which would be about a 6.79% increase in our tax rate. The next line item there shows what our property tax rate was in 2005, 10 years ago, and what our property tax rate is currently. And it's just, there's just a minuscule difference, but we are currently lower than we were 10 years ago. And just to scroll down even further, what a 4-cent tax increase would be, 4 cents per hundred. If you had a $25,000 home, your taxes would go up by $10 a year. $50,000, $20 a year, $100,000, $40 a year, and you can see how much it would go up per month. So if you go all the way up to a $250,000 home, if you increase the tax rate by 4 cents, your taxes would go up by $8.33 a month. Every year when we ask the staff to balance this budget, they're able to do it, but the manner that they do it in, sometimes when you're looking hard for that money is, for example, in the general fund, we stop contributing to a sinking fund that we have for depreciation, so that in the future we'll have money to buy vehicles or equipment that we're gonna need to replace. Another thing that we do is we decrease the amount of money that we use that we budget for street overlays, to the point now, last year we started off at 500,000 and we ended up at $1.5 million, I think, because they found the money to do that. At $500,000, we would have been repaving all the streets in Harlingen about every 120 years, I think my calculation was. That would be how long it would take if you started on Street 1 and got back around to it, based on how much money that would overlay. So, to me, we have a balanced budget, and we can propose that. But I just want everybody to understand that when we propose that balanced budget, there are things that we are deferring into the future that at some point money will have to come for. We'd like to rely on sales tax and that is certainly increasing, but it is not increasing at the same rate as just expenses in general. If you own a business, you know that the cost of everything continues to go up, whether that's employees or electricity or whatever it is you happen to be using in your business. And so, sort of the miracle of having as many citizens as we do and as much property value as we do, you can sort of see, for example, that the impact to everyone to generate $1.3 million worth of additional revenue for the city to be able to fund things like street improvements. And, you know, if the one complaint that citizens have in the city of Harlingen is generally street improvements and or maintenance. That's the calls that I get most often. So I'm just putting that out there sort of as general discussion. I'm not necessarily advocating for it or not, but I know that the citizens are always concerned about improving the appearance of our community, the appearance of the streets, lots of things like that. And it's difficult. The staff does a fantastic job of doing it, but again, they're not magic. So the way they're able to do it sometimes is they defer things out into the future. So having said that, we can move along, but.
Okay, I was gonna speak, you answer, I was gonna say, are you proposing that maybe we study a 4%?
I'm just throwing it out there. I just showed that 4% because it's that 4 cents because if you scroll back up to the top where it shows the tax rates, stop. At 4 cents, we wouldn't change our position on there. We'd still be below the city of Edinburgh, Pharr, Weslaco, San Juan, Brownsville, and San Benito. We wouldn't move any. We'd still be in the same spot as we are right now. So I just picked that number out of.
And would you recommend that 1.3 being generated be exclusively for streets?
I would be willing to do that, I'd be negotiable on how we split that, but.
You can't do that.
Right.
Because
Okay.
you can't buy in future commissions. You can't set it aside that way. It's just gonna get dumped into the general fund.
You
So
address the needs as they come.
you can't say we're gonna raise this 4 cents now. You might be able to do it some other way, but you can't do it that way.
Right, it would go into the general
You
fund.
can't do it that way.
And like I say, I'm just putting it out there for discussion.
And you can't foresee future needs.
Right, and see, and my concern is exactly that. We raise it, we say we're gonna use it, and then the following year, we're not bound to it. And so now the citizens are like, so what happened to the 1.3 that we all thought we were gonna use to street improvement? And so I agree with what the mayor is saying, maybe we need to find a different way of looking at it.
But I think what he's,
But I do understand your study, because I've said it also.
but I think the way I'm taking this point is, he's using streets as an example of
Right.
the many things that the city's having to defer in the future, whether
Right.
it's vehicles for the police department, equipment, street repair.
I mean, those things are what we talked about in the budget hearings that we've had
Right.
already to date. And so I
Right.
just
The
thought
thing
it
is
would
try to give the staff the ability to try to include as much as they can for almost everybody, so that everybody wins, not just one particular You have a better budget.
Like I said, I'm just throwing it out there for discussion. We haven't had a tax
Yeah.
increase since 2000 and before
This
that,
is
I believe.
this is kind of a picky point, but it's about $50,000 with a picky point. I don't see where you get the 328 for 1 cent with a taxable assessed value that's.
Well, I'm just reading here off of
Yeah, I
page
know,
6.
I know that that's there, but we don't have or if we're less than 3 billion, right?
I just took it.
How do you get more than
It's
300,000?
we're also factoring in
with 1 cent?
the collection rate, because the collection rate, I think, it's not straight off the appraised value, the taxable value. It's the taxable value, then we adjust for collection rate. And so you kind of have to factor that in, and that'll give you a slightly different number.
Okay.
Say it again?
The appraised, you have the appraised value,
Right?
and we take that appraised value times the tax rate times the collection rate. And so then based on that collection rate, we'll give you a different increase amount.
I mean,
Well,
one,
that would make it go down, I would think.
yeah. But if you have, if our total is, I mean, I'm looking at the CAFR here, so assessed value for 2015 was at the end of 2015 was 2.9 billion. And the taxable assessed rate is lower than that, right?
No,
So how do you, so 1 cent times $100 valuation.
Well, that's
makes the farm less than 3
That's
billion.
last year's capper, isn't it? That's the previous year.
The taxable assessed value, the taxable value went up to 3.028. Prior year was 2.09, and that 328,000 calculation is based off a taxable value of 2.9 rounded, which was our original base budget proposal.
Okay, I'm still not following that. but,
You understand, it's 2.9, one cent would generate 290.
Well, you have to take the 2.9,
What is 3 billion, what does 1 cent generate off of $3 billion? Isn't it 300,000?
yeah, they did off of that number.
The 3 million.
You still would have, well, you first would take those values, right, and factor in that's per $100 value. So I'm not sure exactly without a calculator how to come up with that number.
Decimal point over.
Just, yeah, I mean, 290 million.
Well, we can, that's probably not the
Like I
larger,
said, I
that's
just-
not the larger point. The larger point, I think, is well taken. One of the things that we might want to do, and that I'd like to see us do, and is to do a 5-year study, to do a 5-year plan in terms of projected revenues and expenses, and to do a little more. We tend to do 1 year at a time. It might be good if we could project out to kind of look and see where we think we want to be, and let that maybe guide some of our decisions about this. I think tonight, for purposes of this action item, and this doesn't actually set the final tax rate, does it? We're just,
No,
we're proposing a tax rate, and then we have these 2 public hearings, and then after that, we could adopt a different tax rate. But that's, so
Basically,
you're
we're
not
voting
really.
to have two public
Yeah,
hearings.
Yeah, you have to have two public hearings.
So you look at the motion.
So, Commissioner Gilmore raised this, we do have, and y'all may want to discuss the tax rate more before somebody moves to propose the tax rate, but what's in there right now is to propose the current tax rate, which is an effective increase, that's an effective tax increase, right? Correct. Because we're going to generate off of the current tax rate more revenue coming fiscal year than we did last year, just like we did last year, we generated more revenue. So, and then we have to have 2 public hearings.
So
what are
this
the
is
wishes
sort of a
the commission?
non-binding vote, or this is just, as part of the timeline, we have to establish this.
Right,
We can still change it, right, Olivia?
Yes.
still change, you can still change it, but we need to get started. I mean, I'm not trying to end the discussion. If y'all want to discuss Commissioner Yulhorn's observations further.
Well, I'd like to know, I mean, I did quick math, 290, which is $300,000 or $290,000 on 1%. I think we should at least, the only time we can ever discuss this is here. And if
That's
we
why
don't
I'm bringing
discuss
it up, because I
if we
can't
don't
talk about it
discuss
with you
it
guys
just goes
except
on
here.
by. You know, I've had these thoughts for a couple of years that we should look at some point in time, figuring out how we can quit deferring things. I know that we balance the budget, do a great job of balancing the budget, but it would be nice not to have to defer
Right.
things.
That's right.
I understand, Mayor, but I think we should at least discuss it. If we haven't discussed it, we're not doing our job.
And this is a pretty simplistic, one-page look at it.
So here's my question, is this what you're proposing, like a Band-Aid, or is it a fix?
I'm not proposing anything, I'm just bringing it up for discussion. We can talk about it the next time that we have a budget hearing, but I did want to get it out on the table because it looked like we were sort of committed, the way this item reads, that we were committed to just keeping the same rate that we vote on here. And I just kind of wanted to leave that option open.
What we would do is we would advertise whatever is decided tonight. We would advertise anytime we want to change it. All it does is move up the meetings. It'll put it later because we have certain guidelines to go by. You know how we have the meeting and then we have to wait 10 days for the publication and things like that. So what we would probably wind up doing is instead of approving the budget September 17th, which is the second meeting, we'd probably have to have a special meeting to approve the budget, because we're gonna move up all the advertising that we do, all the publications that we have to.
Is there a way that we can look at, if we're gonna do an increase, what needs are we gonna address immediately that we deferred?
What, in the budget, we had the budget workshop,
Yes, sir.
and we identified
Yes.
several things that we removed.
Understood?
And the commission can decide which of those you want to put. back
There's
into
several
the
things
budget.
that got deferred.
But does that mean, Elvia, that we would have to have a special meeting next week? So that you
No.
don't push it too far out?
No, not next week. We looked at the calendar and I think we could go to the week of the 17th.
The 17th?
Yeah, that week. And then we would still be able to get all the meetings in between. Now,
Well,
it could be
isn't the
tabled,
Isn't the adoption of the final tax rate after the second public hearing?
yes,
Yeah.
right.
so-
But the advertisements, in the advertisements, you have to advertise what you're proposing your tax rate to be.
So
So if we change that, that's what I'm referring
so we
to.
have to start the.
You have to
advertising.
re-advertise
Right.
if you decided to change the rate. 'cause we
Right.
would-
To let the citizens know what you are now proposing. So we would move the meetings because we have to follow the guidelines on the publications.
So would we table this?
If you table this, then we can have another meeting and we just move all the ads in the paper.
I don't want to cause any catastrophe.
And the issue is that we have certain timelines that we have to meet.
Right.
We can still push it towards the end of September.
Yes. What I was trying to do with the calendar that I prepared was to get it approved the second meeting of September without any special meetings. Now, we've had other years that we have to have a special meeting to, the final reading of the budget and the final reading of the text. So that's what would happen. Because we wouldn't be ready for the first reading until the second meeting in September. And then we
Well-
would have a special meeting for the second reading.
Why don't we, I would urge the commission to go ahead and propose the tax rate as it is and schedule the hearings. Schedule a special meeting to talk about whether or not we want to raise the tax rate, and if we do, then we'll reschedule everything, we'll propose something, but if we decide not to, then we've already got it in place.
But isn't that more cost efficient to say, let's schedule a meeting, we can table and schedule a meeting before then, we don't have to advertise twice, or wasting advertising.
Well, we can I don't know, do we have time to do that?
Right now, we would be sending the information to the newspaper so that those
But you haven't
notices.
done that yet, correct?
Well, we haven't done it, no, we wait
Yeah,
till the
so
meeting.
I would feel more comfortable saying, let's have another meeting, get our information together and see what the commission wants to do, and then move forward from there and then advertise. I think that saves time and money.
You had proposed that we do a 5-year, right?
Well-
So how long would that take?
I mean-
if we're gonna do this right.
No, I mean,
I don't wanna
yeah,
rush
I don't
things, in
think
other
we're,
words.
I think,
We can get that done by next week, sir.
No, I don't wanna rush things, is what I'm saying.
no, I don't think we ought to do it that way. I mean, I think we ought to do,
No.
personally, I think we ought to really, this is it's a serious issue. I think it's a serious issue, both sides of the issue are serious. I think that, we haven't done a 5-year budget plan in a while, and it's probably time for us to take to do that.
But I think,
And I think
Mayor,
that
I
that
think
gives-
we have enough information right now.
Well, I mean, I'm still, I don't know whether this raises $1.3 million or whether it raises, I think it raises $1 million personally, or a little over $1 million. I don't think it raises 1.3, but I don't know.
It's 4 cents though.
We can do the math again. So I think what, the 4 cent, proposing the 4 cent is saying, okay, well, let's raise our income by $1 million. And so what does that really do? I mean, the police department wants a piece of it, streets want a piece of it, everybody wants a piece of, everybody's gonna want a piece of it. And, and that's kind of what happens, because I've seen it, because what happens is to get the increase, it just sort of gets dumped in the pot. And there's no real discipline about how that money is being, gets spent. It just goes back into the pot. But I'm not saying that we shouldn't consider it. I'm saying that I think if we're going to consider it, we need to really think about it. There are some other, there are some potential other ways to do street improvements
Right.
that we could talk about too.
But that's why I think, I wouldn't waste the time on publishing something if you're gonna look at it. That's expensive. Just advertise.
I'm gonna make a motion that we move forward with the plan as planned, with the existing tax rate, that we have the 2 meetings as scheduled, just the way it's written right now. That way we can have that in place.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's a motion. Is there a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay. We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? What was it? Hmm. Okay. You opposed? What did Commissioner
Aye,
Rose do?
aye, aye. Right, you did say aye.
Three,
Aye.
okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and, the ayes have it. So, that's it on that item. We will schedule a special meeting to discuss revising the proposed tax rate. Okay.
Thank you.
Item 7, consider and take action to adopt provisions of the Citizen Participation Plan for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program.
Good evening. As a recipient of CDBG and home funds, we're required to have a citizen participation plan. The citizen participation plan primarily sets forth how we're going to notify the public and encourage participation, especially those that are low to moderate income. It'll tell us when we have to have a public hearing, when we have to have the comment periods, and the method in which we're going to notify the public. Recently, the affirmatively furthering fair housing regulations were revised. previously we would have an analysis of impediments, and they've revised the regulations to say our citizen participation plan must now include the steps that we're going to have to follow to do an assessment of fair housing. Because we just did one, ours is not required until 2020, but we did need to revise the citizen participation plan to include the language, and the Community Development Advisory Board reviewed it June 30th, and they approved the recommendations, and I recommend approval also.
And so this is just giving you approval to deal with the new rules and regs and setting up a structure.
Right. The citizen participation plan says this is when you're going to have a public hearing. If you're going to have a substantial amendment, this is what you have to do. This is how long you have to publish your notice. How long you have to have a comment period. And this is just incorporated the language for the assessment of fair housing that was added in there as one of the components of the citizen participation plan.
Okay, is there a motion to take action to adopt the revisions as proposed?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Tammy, thank you.
Thank you.
Item A, consider and take action to approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign an advance funding agreement with the Texas Department of Transportation and represent the city of Harlingen in all matters related to the landscaping and lighting improvements at I-69, I-2 interchange. Javier.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. We got the agreement from the TXDOT, and if you all recall, for the benefit of those commissioners that weren't here, back in 2015, the city of Harlingen was awarded the Governor's Community Achievement Award, and what that did was that allowed the city to improve or make improvements to the city in the amount of $250,000. And so the City Commission selected the interchange, or that median at the interchange, as one of the priority projects. The agreement, of course, resolution does authorize the city manager to sign it and represent the city on all matters related to that project. If you can see in attachment C in your attachment, the budget is there. The state is providing some in-kind, the amount of $33,000. Total project, of course, the total amount was $250. The state, we have to pay them 20%, which is $50,000, and then they're providing, like I said, the $33,000. So there's no out-of-pocket from the city. We're confident that the project is going to come within budget for landscaping and the lighting. And staff recommends approval.
Javier, is there anything tricky about the lighting? I notice in McAllen they have these like mood lights under their turnarounds that change colors that are a little bit distracting. I don't know whether we've gone high tech on that on this project or not.
Yeah, the lights will be LED lights. We will have the option to be able to change the colors as we wish. We did speak to TXDOT, and we said that for the most part we would leave them white. But we do have the option. We can control that.
I'm gonna dial up the colors.
Yes.
During certain times of the year, like Christmas time,
You can make them rotate.
we can change the colors.
Right.
Orange during Halloween, red during
St. Patrick's Day.
When you make your motion, authorize the mayor to sign the resolution.
Yes, sir.
Okay, any other questions?
And you said the 33, that's just in here, but it's gonna be an in-kind is what that is?
Yes, sir.
'Cause I noticed it was 283, I said, where did we get the extra 33?
Right, it's all in kind. It's the engineer, they did the plans for us, and so on.
Well, it says local participation 0, isn't that us?
Yes.
That's not costing us.
And I just want to make it clear that if there are cost overruns for any reason, or the bids come in high, we are responsible for anything over the allotment.
That's correct.
But we don't foresee that, but I just want to point that out.
And we'll still have the same factor when they come back if they're higher. You have to present it to the board now.
No, TXDOT would award the bid. TXDOT will be bid this out on their own. They award the bid, and they hire the contractor, and they oversee the project. So it's gonna be a great project.
Yes, sir.
It's going to be a great project. Okay, could we have a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the mayor to sign the advanced funding agreement?
So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And motion passes. So again, congratulations to all who are involved in securing this award for the city. This is $250,000 from the governor's program, and so this is great for us to be able to utilize this to beautify the city. Thank you, Javier.
Thank you.
Item 9 is consider to take action to adopt an ordinance on first reading to extend an existing no parking zone along the east side of Tennessee Avenue.
Good evening. A request was presented to staff due to concerns with parking on Tennessee Road on the east side, just north of Business 77. And this will be an extension of 180 feet to the existing no parking zone. Staff recommends approval.
Is it? I'm assuming that's VA employees parking there.
Yes.
Yeah, the VA Police Department and the VA Administration has requested this. In the last 6 weeks or so, there have been 5 near misses of pedestrians because they're hard to see when people are parking along the street. And so they want to protect their employees.
We ask the city attorney to read the caption, please.
An ordinance to establish a no parking zone on the east side of Tennessee Avenue for a length of 180 linear feet commencing 315 feet north of South 77 Sunshine Strip, authorizing the chairman of vehicles parked in said no parking zone, establishing a penalty not to exceed $200 for violation of the provisions of this ordinance, providing for publication, and ordaining other matters related to foregoing.
So moved.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The motion carries. Item 10, consider taking action to appoint a chairman for the tax instrument finance reinvestment zones 1, 2, and 3.
Mayor, Commission, it's time to appoint a chairman to church zones 1, 2, and 3. I have the list of current board members. We have Commissioner Michael Mesmore, Commissioner Victor Leon, Eric Zihi, Kyle Orguera, Felix Sanchez, Victor Villarreal, and County Commissioner David Garza. And so we need some recommendations from the commission on this one.
Commissioner Leal has been the acting chairman the last couple of meetings.
They're doing a fantastic job.
Not a problem. I would be happy to be the chairperson.
I'd so move.
Got a motion and a second to appoint Commissioner Leal as the chairman of the TIF zones 1, 2, and 3. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 11, consider to take action to approve the proposed priority project list identified in the City of Harlingen's comprehensive plan. One vision, one Harlingen.
Mayor, I'm going to turn this over to Gabe. He's done a fantastic job with putting this presentation together. All yours, Gabe.
Thank you. Mayor, members of the commission, Radell asked me to put this presentation together. This is the exact same presentation I'm going to make on Friday. He did ask me to take 30 minutes for the presentation. I won't do that tonight. I'll give you the abridged version. All of you have seen all these slides already, so we're going to go through them really quickly. They're just some numbers that I'd like to share with you at the end of the presentation. But these are the priorities that we came up from the workshop we had on June 27th. Now there's 17 priorities. That doesn't mean there are 17 projects. There's actually 32 projects identified in this priority system. 3 of them have no funding allocated to them, and we'll go through that real quick. The first priority obviously was the convention center. We've already identified funding for that at the $14.8 million to come from the 4B, the TERS 1, 2, and 3, and the hot funds. Now I'm going to go through these real quick. Priority number 2 was the Baxter Building. Priority 3 was the overlay for commerce from Taft to North Business 77, and cost of $2.2 million. Priority 4 was develop Lawrence Hill as a destination park at a cost of $12.9 million. And we've seen this before. This is a concept, and the all-inclusive playground equipment. Priority 5 was to allow and encourage mixed-use development in the core areas of Harlingen. This is one of those items that doesn't have a dollar amount allocated with it because staff is going to work on those recommendations.
And Gabe, I just want to point out to the commission that on the all-inclusive playground on the Lansing Hill Park, we were awarded a $425,000 grant, which is 100% funding for the all-inclusive park at Lansing Hill by the Legacy Foundation, and we just got awarded that last Tuesday.
Yeah, that's later in the
So great
presentation.
job with Javier Mendez and his staff of getting that grant.
Priority 6 is the parking needs in the downtown at a cost of $40,000. Another priority 6 is a downtown master plan, another project that does not have a dollar amount allocated to it. We have not come up with a cost estimate for this yet. Priority 7 is 7 projects identified for drainage, 13th Street, Rojondo, Dixieland, and Lipscomb drainage projects. These are the cost estimates. Again, you've seen all these at the presentation we had at the workshop. Priority 8 is the LPG burn prop unit for the fire department, along with the drill tower. Priority 9 is the renovation of City Hall. This is the last project that has no dollar amount associated with it. All the others do. Priority 10 is all-inclusive playground equipment for Fair Park and Victor Park. Priority 11 is the renovation of the historical building and the museum. And it's a layout of what it might look like. Priority 12 is the soccer complex completion of the project. Priority 13 has 7 projects identified in it. Most of them from Prop 1 and Prop 7 funding. The first is Spur 54 at a cost of $6.8 million. The next is the expansion of the bike lane, the extension of the bike lane on Loop 499. The Dixieland turnaround. The FM 509 extension. This is going to be a great project, so it'll be tied into the Outer Parkway. And this is a map that the MPO showed showing the location of the parkway and the expansion of 509. Then the bicycle pedestrian master plan at a cost of $79,000. And then the proposed bike lanes for Tyler and Harrison. Here's a layout, what it would look like. Cross-section of the streets. And the multimodal transit center at a cost of $5 million. And these are all the projects identified in Priority 13, $17 million, possible out-time funding of $16.8 million, and the city would be responsible for about $500,000. Priority 14 is the marketing for the Aerotropolis at a cost of $100,000 annually. Priority 15 has 3 projects: upgrade the children's library, upgrade the computer lab, and then create a teen library, a teen room at the library, rather. Priority 16 is the Hugh Ramsey Nature Park at a cost of $1.2 million. Priority 17 is the Ramsey to McKelvey Trail. This has 2 projects. The second is the trails to the downtown area. Now, in all these projects, the total cost for all of them is $63 million. Less Prop 1 and Prop 7 possible funding sources is 17, so we deduct 17.3 million. The convention center has been deducted because that's where it already been identified for funding. The legacy grant that the city manager just spoke about for $425,000. Possible grants that we've applied for the drainage projects at $2.2 million. Possible grant for the LPG grant for the fire department at $270,000. Possible donations for the museum. One of the members is going to start a donation campaign to raise funds for the renovation, so we're hoping to get $500,000 for that. The donation playground equipment with the $200,000 donation from Mr. Koppel from the school district, and then possible parks grants that we've applied for, $500,000. So total outside funding is approximately $36.6 million, which would leave about $26 million in funding needed for the rest of the projects identified. So I went through it real quick. Most of you have seen the information, but the city manager just wants you to see the list of priorities, and they were presented in order of priority, so that's what we're going to tackle. So I'll be happy to answer the questions you may have.
So we are asking for your approval of the priority list as listed. And again, if funding becomes available for a project further down the list, then that project will be moved up simply because if there was funding identified.
Also,
Second.
These, this identifies the list of projects from the larger list of projects that are in the comprehensive plan. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that they're gonna all be funded, or that they're all gonna get done, or that we know when they're all gonna get done. It just means that we have a plan, that we have our, really tasking the staff to concentrate on and see if they can get these projects done, after identifying funding. I think it's really, incredible that we've identified as much funding already, potential, both known sources and potential sources of funding for so many of the projects. It's really, really exciting. These are the projects that you all identified in the motion. So what are the wishes of the commission?
Have a motion in a second. Have a motion in a second,
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Great. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Item 12 is consider and take action to approve a resolution authorizing the mayor to accept grant funding in the amount of $18,228 to the United States Department of Justice for a project entitled the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice System Grant.
Good evening. This is an annual grant that comes along. This year it's for $18,228. There's no cash match required or anything like that, and it's used for technology funds. We're recommending approval.
Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, item 13 is board appointments. Anybody have any board appointments?
None.
I have, for the attendance advisory board, I have Eva Chips.
Okay.
And I have a reappointment of Brent Hunter to the Museum Advisory Board.
All right, and I think I have an appointment to the library board. We had a resignation.
We had a resignation.
Okay, so I appoint Mary, what else? To the library board. Is there a motion to approve the board appointments?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 14 is executive session item, attorney consultation pursuant to section 551.071 Texas Government Code to provide legal advice and counsel in connection with certain collective bargaining issues contained in the notice of intent to bargain by the duly recognized majority bargaining agent of the city's law enforcement officer, the Harlingen Police Officer and Law Enforcement Association, and the Harlingen Professional Firefighters Association. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be using this main chamber for our executive session, and there will be no action taken after, and no other items on the agenda after our executive session. So I'd like to ask you all to, thank you for being here tonight.
I ran out of